In his belligerence and hostilities toward his Eastern European neighbor Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin has altered the course of this young and already troubled century. He has reignited the potential danger of territorial conquest and nuclear war, and has stunned Western Europe out of its lengthy post-war tranquility, raising the prospect of a rapid remilitarization of Germany. Vladimir Putin addressed the nation at the start of the war, declaring that the purpose of the invasion was to defend people who have been victims of abuse and genocide. Reasons that several analysts regarded as an utterly bogus and baseless pretext in which Russia engaged for its unprovoked aggression to halt a democratic country's self-determined shift towards the West. What happens next has been a question that raises concern among a multitude. No one really knows when or to what extent the war would erupt. Should Moscow intend to claim major portions of Ukraine, heavy resistance should be anticipated from a resilient Ukrainian army that has proven quite formidable. Furthermore, for all the support Ukraine has received in the period, coupled with the immense opposition Russia has faced, it is difficult to envision a Russian authority in Kyiv enjoying any kind of stability. From an onlooking perspective, it would seem that the most long-lasting impacts will involve President Vladimir Putin and Russia. With a slew of sanctions levied against Putin's regime, major concerns have arisen about the impact on the Russian people, as well as the unavoidable Russian casualties and how they will be felt in Russia. Furthermore, a domino effect set off by Putin's attack could result in a serious challenge to his rule. In his published article, Tectonic Shifts, John McLaughlin, former acting director of the CIA, describes Russia as a hungry, insecure bully who kept the world on edge with its demands and periodic land grabs, and for a while, the United States and Europe had tolerated these aggressions, assuming that even Putin had limitations. He took Crimea by force and allegedly poisoned opponents, although he had never actually invaded any European country. At least until now, when Russia has been exposed as a terrorist state and Putin as a war criminal. It's remarkable that his lieutenants appear unconcerned or unaware of the gravity of the situation, especially given their foreseeable isolation and the fact that they'll never again be recognized as legitimate by the international community. Perhaps they might even be afraid to confront the Russian president, and maybe they are in the right to, since sources describe him as somewhat of an intimidating man. According to John McLaughlin, the reaction of Soviet emigrants in Los Angeles, who are suddenly embarrassed to be called Russian, and the growing exodus of Russians since the war began are precursors of a transition that may penetrate deep within the Russian Federation if Putin stays, the war drags on, and real information about the war enters the country. Putin's unavoidable dilemma is that Russia cannot win this war, even if his forces destroy enough of Ukraine and its people to gain control of new territories. He will almost certainly face continued global condemnation, war crimes charges, and a fierce insurgency in the absence of a peace deal. The former CIA agent anticipates a Ukrainian insurgency, citing a willing populace, widespread public support outside Ukraine, and ample safe haven for insurgents, resupply efforts, and training as reasons for this, asserting that, with the manner in which Putin has displayed his hostility through the war, he will lose even if he wins using his current methods. Russia-Western relations, and potentially the entire global geopolitical landscape, have also been altered. In its aftermath, the war could have long-lasting outcomes for the US and its European allies. Concerns about US diplomacy and leadership may be alleviated slightly by the experience in Ukraine, given the seriousness of the painful and careless withdrawal from Afghanistan. After years of growing doubts about Washington's ability to lead on the international stage, the United States is demonstrating that it can still form a strong and diverse coalition to achieve a common goal. Putin's war, in its desperate attempt to halt the growing coalition of Europe's twin pillars of the alliance, NATO, and the European Union, has only served to empower these unions in precisely the ways that the Russian authoritarian hoped to avoid. The renewed awareness of Europe's vulnerability will have a profound influence on its members' defense priorities. Nations such as Sweden and Finland have committed to joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in order to protect their countries from such invasions, which would be a dramatic change from their previous practice of coordinating their defense policies with NATO unofficially and at a distance. Furthermore, the heavy reliance on Russian energy by the EU could be weaned through joint projects between the EU and the US, which have already begun with a US commitment to increase liquefied natural gas exports to Europe. Several European countries have also taken glimpses at gas reserves in African nations such as Algeria, Nigeria, and Angola, as well as the Middle East as possible solutions to energy insecurity. So with the current trajectory, it is likely that Putin will end up with the polar opposite of the weak and fractured NATO he sought, an alliance that operates on a united front, with fully equipped armies that are better prepared and members who encroach closer to Russia's borders than they were before the Ukraine attack. One thing that has been apparent throughout the conflict has been Putin's display of nuclear capability whenever threatened. This has reintroduced nuclear weapons into the public and political consciousness after years of diminished awareness of their dangers and implications for strategic decisions. In January 2021, Putin and President Joe Biden re-signed the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, a nuclear arms reduction agreement between the United States and the Russian Federation that will last until February 4th, 2026. Analysts, on the other hand, believe it was just a stopgap to prevent it from expiring when Biden took office. Such arms control measures, according to John McLaughlin, need to be revised to take into account not only the implications of Putin's war, but also new technologies such as hypersonic weapons and China's growing arsenal. The United States, Russia, and others have previously reached agreements on nuclear weapons use and preventative measures through the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty to avoid recklessness with these most dangerous of weapons. While it will be difficult to repair these rifts while Putin is on his rampage, the tectonic shifts, author believes that the United States and other major nuclear powers will have a new incentive to return to the arms control table. With Ukraine's tenacity and effective counteroffensives, Russia's failure to garner a clear victory, and the humanitarian disaster it has left in its wake, Chinese President Xi Jinping is likely to be as surprised as Vladimir Putin. According to the former intelligence agent, this could explain China's recent diplomatic efforts in Europe, including promises of humanitarian aid to Ukraine and the appearance of sanctions compliance, all while avoiding criticism of Russia, refraining from UN condemnations, and remaining tight-lipped on blaming NATO. However, the longer this goes on, the more the world condemns it and Putin is exposed as a war criminal, shrinking the middle ground for China. While the China-Russia relationship has been strong thus far, there is every indication that it will be tested if current trends continue, and even if they do not. As Russia's war in Ukraine wages, the conflict's consequences continue to reverberate around the globe. In Africa, the conflict is upsetting protracted trends and eliciting conflicting responses from governments. Increased sanctions are forcing the Kremlin to explore relationships with countries outside of Europe and the United States, leaving African countries facing food shortages and energy project financing. While some see this as an opportunity to strengthen economic capacity on the continent, others see it as an opportunity for Russia to rethink its African policy. To accurately predict the path and outcome of the war that has raged for months would be difficult nonetheless. One fact that can be confirmed is that the global outlook has been altered. The full consequences of Russia's attack on Ukraine will be felt over decades, not years, and in directions that no one, including Putin, can foretell with any certainty. This war has rattled the entire globe in one way or the other, and will ultimately go down as arguably Europe's largest conflict since 1989, possibly since 1945. If you enjoyed this video and want more topics about trends in the world, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more exciting future video.